Today, we are going to review the 2006 film called 300. As the movie is based upon actual events, we will highlight or add any historical facts, and at the same time point out purely fictional aspects of the film. The review will attempt to follow the film's story arc as best as possible. From birth, Spartan males faced a rigorous selection by their male elders, called the Gerousia. Those deemed frail or imperfect were abandoned on Mount Taygetus, as Spartans valued only the strong who could survive independently. Boys were separated from their mothers at age 7 and grouped into packs called agili. They were conditioned to endure hardship with minimal food and clothing, which prompted them to steal. As stealing was viewed as a form of self-independence, punishment was only handed out for getting caught. Adulthood was reached at the age of 18, after 2 years of cryotia, where they had to fend for themselves in remote places. Normally, future kings would not have to endure this. Since King Leonidas was third from the crown, he was placed through the rigors in training with the Spartan army. After the unforeseen deaths of his 2 older brothers, Leonidas was crowned King of Sparta. Although Persian envoys were thrown into a Spartan well during King Xerxes' father's reign, Xerxes decided not to send envoys of submission to Sparta because of this act. In fact, killing the messenger is deemed an act of cowardice in Spartan law. When the Persian envoys were killed, 2 Spartans volunteered to ride to Persia and offer themselves as sacrifices as payment for their misdeeds. Xerxes' father refused killing them and sent them back to Sparta. Recognizing Xerxes' threat, Leonidas seeks the ephors, Sparta's high council, blessing before sending the Spartan army in battle. He plans to use Thermopylae's terrain to counter the Persians' numbers by trapping them in a narrow pass. The ephors ask the oracle at Delphi, who says only 2 things may happen: King Leonidas will die or Persia will destroy Sparta. As Xerxes approached Greece, it was the festival of Carnaia, as well as the Olympic Games. During these times, the Spartan army was forbidden by Spartan law to engage in any military activity. The ephors agreed that the Persian approach was a matter of urgency and agreed to dispatch a small expeditionary force with the larger force to follow after the festival and games concluded. Leonidas elects to take 300 of his best soldiers as his royal bodyguard and march towards Thermopylae while picking up as many other Greek soldiers along the way as they could. As Leonidas was leaving, his wife says goodbye, telling him to come back with his shield on it. This is a Spartan saying, stating that dying in battle is as honorable and good as surviving it. Leonidas and his 300 Spartans managed to accumulate just over 7,000 additional troops from several differing Greek regions which lay between Sparta and Thermopylae. In sight of the approaching Persian army, they construct a wall to better funnel the Persians' advance. Although the movie depicts an intense storm destroying portions of Xerxes' fleet, again, this only happened to Xerxes' father in the previous Persian attempt to conquer Greece. In fact, Xerxes spent a good portion of a decade building bridges and canals to ensure his father's fate would not be his own. Upon arriving at Thermopylae, Leonidas learns of an old goat path through the mountains which could be used by the Persians to outflank his position. As a result, he decides to leave 1,000 soldiers to guard against this possibility. Although there did exist a Greek man named Ephialtes, he was not at all disfigured, but just a simple Greek shepherd. His treachery is unmatched in Greek history, as he betrayed his country for gold by revealing the location of the forgotten goat path. As the Greeks realized the degree in which they were outnumbered, one of the Greek soldiers commented that the Persians could possibly block out the sun with their arrows. Dienekes, who was considered the bravest of all the Spartans, simply said they would fight in the shade. Xerxes spent the first 4 days at Thermopylae trying to negotiate a surrender while demonstrating his forces' might before the Spartans. During this time, a Persian emissary was sent to ask Leonidas to lay down his arms, to which he responded, "Come and take them." During the first day of the 3-day battle, Xerxes ordered his 5,000 archers to shoot a barrage of arrows. The arrows were ineffective, as they could not penetrate the Greeks' thick wooden shields covered in bronze. He then sent in 10,000 infantry, which became bogged down within the bottlenecked 100-meter path. The Spartans stood their ground within their highly effective phalanx formations. The Persians lost thousands of soldiers against a Spartan loss of only a few men. Later that afternoon, Xerxes then committed his elite force called the Immortals. Again, the Greeks dispatched the Immortals in the same manner as their general infantrymen earlier that morning. The second day of fighting brought the same results, causing Xerxes to withdraw his forces once again. He was completely enraged and in wonder of what to attempt next. It is during this lull in the fighting, where Ephialtes offered his services for a handsome reward. Upon agreement, he showed the Persians how they could utilize the old goat trail to outflank the Greeks and attack them from behind. That night, 10,000 immortals were sent to encircle the Greeks via that path. On the early morning of the third day, Xerxes' immortals stumbled across the 1,000 Phocians who were standing guard at the trailhead. As the Phocians regrouped into defensive positions, the immortals simply sidestepped them and continued on towards Leonidas's position. As Leonidas learns of the Phocians' inability to hold the Persians back at the trailhead, he orders everyone except his Spartans to retreat and fight another day. 700 of the other Greeks decided to stay and stand with the Spartans and fight to the death. This would allow the others enough time to retreat and escape the impending encirclement. Leonidas decides to have one of his injured Spartans sent back to Sparta to tell the tale of what happened. This task was given to a Spartan by the name of Aristodemus. Queen Gorgo's portrayal within the film is largely fictional. However, it is worthy to mention she was considered extraordinarily intelligent. For example, Sparta was first notified of Xerxes' pending invasion by means of an encrypted note encased in wax. She managed to decrypt the message by suggesting the wax be melted away. She is described by David Kahn in his book The Code Breakers as one of history's first female cryptanalysts. Leonidas decides to move his formations in more open ground, as this would allow them to inflict the maximum amount of damage on the Persians before being killed. At dawn, a Persian force of 10,000 men advanced towards the front of the Greek position, while 10,000 more advanced from the rear. The Greeks fought until every spear was broken and every sword smashed. They fought by hand and teeth once these weapons were destroyed. This battle killed both Xerxes' half-brothers as well as Leonidas himself. The Spartans decided to make their last stand on higher ground, atop a hill just behind their defending positions. There they vigilantly defended their king from the Persians until Leonidas succumbed from his wounds. As the Greeks were fierce close combat warriors, the Persians decided to finish them off from afar with a volley of bronze-tipped arrows. Although the film depicts Leonidas and Xerxes meeting numerous times, in reality, however, the two had never met. Typically, Persians honored all men who died in battle, no matter who they fought for. As Leonidas was so successful against the Persian onslaught, Xerxes ordered his head removed and his body crucified. In awe of Leonidas and the others' sacrifice, numerous Greek cities assembled a fierce army into a determined charge against the Persian army, igniting the Battle of Plataea. The Greeks were victorious at the end of this and expelled the Persians from Greece. Never again would Greece fear the prospects of a future Persian invasion. To this day, a statue of King Leonidas I stands in the exact spot in which the Battle of Thermopylae was fought. Not far, an additional monument stands on the hill of Kolonos, where their last stand took place.